I'm Kelly Lewis.
And I'm Tiffany Jones, and we're your Revenue Insiders.
If you're enjoying the Revenue Insiders, we'd love your support. Follow us, rate, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more listeners like you. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. We are in our AI mini-series all about disruptive AI organizations. We have Jarod Greene, who I know very well, from Vivun. He's going to talk all about that product and also just chat about his career experience. Jarod and I know each other from HighSpot. He was the VP of product marketing. I was the VP of revenue enablement. Let's just say we've had some ups and downs.
I've never heard of Jarod before. Definitely not before today.
We had I think the typical enablement comes in, product marketing's been doing the enablement role for so long, and we had to find a balance for a while. And I think we should at some point talk about that on this episode, because I think we learned a lot. We talked about it. I did a podcast for Jarod the other day. I was like, we could probably write a book on what not to do, but then how to do it better.
That's always good.
It's growth.
There's growth, personal growth on both sides.
For sure.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here, first off.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you. Okay. So, Vivun.
Yeah.
What is Vivun? What do y'all do? What problems are you solving?
Vivun is a really cool company. And I met Vivun about a year and a half ago when they said, hey, we have a platform that helps sales engineers do their best work. And you and I, Kelly, have worked together, and we know the value of sales engineers and how critical they are to make the whole thing work. We wanted a lot out of that function, right? We wanted to make sure that they were at the center of everything we were trying to do, from competitive to positioning to product feedback. And so when I met the team at Vivun, I said, how come I've never heard of you guys? Like, this is a problem I am in the middle of solving right now. And they said, no, we built this platform back in 2018. Our founders, Matt Darrow and John Bruce, are former sales engineers from Zora. And what they've built was the platform they wanted to do the job they needed to go do. So whether it was, how do I manage my SE specific workflow? They built Vivun. How do I log product gaps with revenue assigned? They built Vivun. How do I create kind of request and fulfill scenarios for calendar assignments? So I need an SE tomorrow who speaks French, that knows the financial service industry, who's available. They built Vivun. And so the product's been around for that long, about 125 customers worldwide. And what's really cool is that last year we started development on our AI sales engineer. So we built an agent that actually does the job of the sales engineer. And in the beginning, we thought it was cool that the SC now has a little AI SC to help them. And what we learned is that the best use case has been for those AEs who don't get the SE support they want, or for the enablement teams that want the SC to come talk about the new capabilities and features and values, or for the product marketer who needs to make sure that everybody's on board with the same message. That's Vivun in a nutshell, the platform for the SEs to do their best work, as well as the AI agent that can replicate that work for teams who don't have that scale and capacity.
I'd love to understand, like, as you guys have shifted into that AI agent component of the product, how is that being received by your ICP? Is that something they're excited about, equally as excited as the core product? How's that fitting in?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, Tiffany. So there's that world of resistance that you would naturally feel if someone said, hey, we built an AI that does your job. I know how I would feel if I were a product marketer and they said, hey, we built the AI PMM that's going to do all the job of a PNM. Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah. Same for enablement. Yeah, good luck with that, right? So you would naturally feel some of that tension. But I think what we've learned over time is it actually opened up the persona mix. It allowed us to go talk to the AE who's frustrated that they don't get the same level of SE support as maybe a strategic rep would, or the rep with the the typical highest attainment would. So now we're in conversations with AEs who are saying, I don't need an SE for the full meal deal, but it'd be nice to have some SE support on my discovery call, or it'd be nice to have some SE support on my handoff to the post-sales team. So we've been able to go talk to AEs. We've really struggled in the past to get to the CRO and head of sales, because they would look at sales engineering as like, yeah, I need them. I need that team. unless I was an SC, I don't quite know all the things they do. I don't quite get all the nuance. And so in going to talk to sales leaders about solving a pain point for them has been an interesting journey. But the IC bit and then the sales engineering bit was interesting because, again, in the beginning, natural resistance to AI. Yeah, right. You think you're going to do my job. But when they actually saw the value of, we can take a lot of crap off your plate, we can automate a lot of the mundane things, we can keep a lot of the kind of nitnorky AE requests out of your inbox, they started to come around. So we had to learn how to position it more as a teammate than a replacement.
Yeah.
And we've had success with looking at it as like a labor offset. One of the better motions we've run is finding all the accounts in our database that are hiring an SC right now. And if you're hiring an SC, I know you got money. I know you got money. Now, I know it's labor spend versus software spend, but if you're hiring, you vocalize the need to fill a gap or to create some capacity or scale. So it's been as simple as us picking up the phone or sending an email that says, hey, we see you're hiring. Would you at least give our agent a look? Would you at least evaluate the agent? And then that's been a very successful motion.
When I think about how I've engaged with SEs throughout my career, I was a rep, so my SEs were my favorite people. They were, right next to me in all of my deals. But as I moved into leadership roles, one of the things I noticed is that SEs get very little investment when it comes to tech stack support, help. I remember like going through tickets and our SCs had requested all of these like Salesforce updates and they sometimes got addressed, but like quite frequently the AEs got addressed first.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? And Tiffany, like you can answer this too. I'm just curious, like why has that mindset been like that for so long?
It's been a tough code to crack, and I think there's two major reasons that pop up for me. Tiffany, I'm curious what you see. I think one was always these were the guys and gals who were just technical by nature and would figure it out anyway. So again, like they kind of get into SC because they're half sales, half engineer, half product. Technical by nature, they like to build things, they like to solve problems, they like being in front of the customer, they like making technology work for them. And if you tell them no enough, they'll just go build it themselves. They'll just say, "I got it." Right? Like you're not gonna buy something from me. I got it. And I don't find another role in go to market that has the product skills or the engineering skills to say, "I'll just build it myself." Right? I got it. It's fine. And I think the other part of it is that they've struggled to, and it feels like enablement and product marketing here a little bit. They've struggled to kind of align what they do to like revenue and value. So of course they're part of every big deal. Of course they've done everything click to close. Of course they've supported in the background. They filled out RFPs. They did the special demos. They answered all the competitive questions. But it's been hard to like directly attribute that work to the bottom line. They might get a shout out in the close one notes. They might get recognized. They might. They might, but I think a lot of that was a function of like the AE being nice and saying like, if I'm not nice to my SC, he's not going to be nice to me. So it's been hard for them to directly attach and attribute their value. And then the other side of it is, when that light is on and it's bright and the SCs are killing it, everyone's happy. But God forbid they like show the wrong feature or are honest about the roadmap. Like we've seen CEOs and other leaders want to like wring an SC's neck, and so. It's been a struggle, I think, for them to stand up and tell their value story the same way a rep could, particularly if they're not assigned accounts. There's a pooled model. So I think those are the two things. They'll figure it out on their own if you don't give them the tools they need. And it's hard for them to stand up on a table and say, this is what I've done. And if I weren't here, these things wouldn't happen, because most of them are just there. They're going along with the flow. Tiffany, I'm curious to see what you've seen, because this is one probably close to you too.
Yeah. I mean, especially in all the planning work we do, productivity is the name of the game, right? Like you're trying to be as productive as possible. And you measure that really at the end of the day by how much quota you can give an individual salesperson. And like there are benchmarks out there. You want to have a certain amount of quota per person. And SEs factor into that, right? As do operations roles and enablement roles and a lot of other things, but they're a factor of that productivity. They're not the productivity. And so when a salesperson says, I can close 2 more deals if you go get me this software, it's an immediate like translation to that math equation of like, oh, I can get more quota out of each individual, and I can directly see it. And I think what you said is spot on. SEs they relate it to like, I can hire less people on my team. I can support more reps, but I know that you'll figure it out if I don't say yes. So I don't have to prioritize you. And unless you're telling me like, I can make my commercial reps close twice as many deals if I can give them an SE, but you don't have to do anything specific for them. Like that's that I think is the missing link of explaining their value. And it's not, I mean, the rest of us that aren't the salesperson that support the revenue org fall into the same category the SEs do. Like my team, the whole revenue ops and strategy, like they're not going to get fancy tools. I'm going to tell them to figure out how to build it in Google Sheets. Like,
figure it out. Yeah. Yeah, that's been the SCs. You ask them, what are they using? It's like, we use what the reps use. We use the scraps we get from the reps.
Yeah.
We use customized Salesforce. So we're always on with the ops team to help us customize these fields and build these reports. And we're always told to wait. We're always told to get in line. We'll just figure it out. And then some of the easier things are like, well, what did you guys do? We did this many demos. We filled out this many RFPs. That's it. And so when we go out and we do our primary research and say, okay, what tools are you guys excited about? What would you go buy? Demo automation tools so we can do more demos, and RFP automation so we can fill out more RFPs. And they're kind of going to get stuck in that same problem of like, I've done more demos, but the conversion rate is still flat or it's declining, or we filled out more RFPs, but we can't actually keep pace with technical differentiation to answer these questions the right way. And we can't actually feedback to product how to go close these gaps. Kelly and I were part of a project a few years ago. We were at High Spot, and you'll remember Project Hunt, Kelly. You'll remember that one.
Gosh, yeah. Ooh.
Really well. But I think that was the assignment. It was new head of product said, what are the things we need to go build to go be more competitive as a company, and what are the 25, 30 features we need to ship in 6 months to go make it hunt more effectively. And you guys have been a part of these, whether it was High Spot or anywhere else. Imagine going out to try to find all of those product gaps and say, okay, what's really like, you guys know who to go talk to. You talk to the marketing team because they'd see things. You talk to the sales team because they'd have a point of view. You talk to CS because they're in the field, but the SC should see all of that. The SC should see all of it and say, yep, when I demo this feature that we think is killer, I see the looks on their faces. They're not compelled. Or, we specifically lost this deal because this was absent and I can tie revenue to it. So I say that to say, like, that's been, I think, the missing link on it. SC standing on the table and saying, look, if I can have the ability to influence messaging, marketing, influence the product roadmap, and like tell the best stories, we're going to win more deals. And I found zero disagreement with that sentiment. It's just been hard to find those leaders willing to get up, stand on that table, pound their chest, and be that boisterous about it.
They're just under leveraged. And
yeah.
I think to your point, and we saw this in enablement too, it's like asking for the seat at the table or having advocates that are like, why is an SE in the room right now? That seems weird. They're not here.
They know everything. They're the nexus to me. Like I selfishly thought like product marketing was the nexus, and I think enablement is a nexus in a lot of ways, but it was that nexus of product, go to market, and like the field that I think an SC can be, because they know a lot about the product and they know a lot about the competitive, because they're front and center on it. Like when it's go time, it's go time. When you have that special call or that, must show and must compel, what SC to call. And they better stand and deliver. And it is showtime. And a bad demo, it's hard to come out of. So again, like if that person can say, listen, I've earned the right to be at the table because I've stood, I've delivered, I've performed. So treat me accordingly. They get there, but I just don't think they have it. And that's not a knock on them. I think some of them would be in the room right now saying the same thing.
We just wrapped up our kickoff last week, and I sent 4 SEs to club, which was a surprise for most of them. I think they thought one was going. And so it always feels good. I'm a huge fan of the SE. I think it's, especially like I'm in cybersecurity and very technical. And I think in our space specifically, like there's just no way for me to enable my sellers on a lot of the technicalities of the broader cyber world to talk intelligently. And so it's a huge piece of their role is to just be the knowledge source of the broader industry. And they don't get recognized for that a lot of the time. You run a state of sales engineering report. I love a state of report. It's always a great resource. What have you found in doing the research around that? What are some of the key things in that report?
There's a few. I think we talk a lot about the advocacy. So that's been the big takeaway. It's like, hey, what are the KPIs and metrics you use to communicate your value? And typically the ones that bubble to the top are the lagging indicators. And I'm always surprised that there's not a better mix of leading. I think the best leaders want to do a mix of both, but it's the access to the analytics or the lack thereof, lack of analytics, the lack of the operational rigor, to borrow another term, to tell that story. So I'm always taken aback when, again, I mentioned this before, what do you measure yourself on? Number of demos, number of RFPs done. Cool. Because now it's just a math problem. So now I can't advocate with things like, what if you could do more demos in a different segment, to your point, Tiffany? Or what if we could tie ourselves to competitive win rates? What if we could tie ourselves to technical win rates? So I'm always taken aback by the inability of a lot of leaders to get the data they need to tell the story. The other one is just, again, like when I look at new software investments, it's typically been I want to automate my demos and I want to automate the RFP process.
Yeah.
And it's never about the analytics I need, the product field alignment pieces I need, the platform I need to just automate the very, role specific work that I need to do, typically at the bottom of the list. So that's always an interesting takeaway. And then the other one I had, and I think this is a proxy just the kind of customers we work with or just the industry in general. If you have sales engineers and they know what that role is, whether it's a pre-sales consultant or a solution engineer, or goes by any other name, what I'm typically struck by is these are the folks who are in the mix, can do all these things, but again, don't necessarily have the authority to go command the resources and the budget they have. So we ask every year, hey, what's your level of comfort with going to ask for money? Or what's your level of comfort with getting money if you put the case together? The weirdest phenomenon I've seen is that these people have sold software, they've demoed software, they've done technical differentiation software. They never bought it. They never bought it. They've been too busy selling it and doing all the work to say, okay, now I want you to run the procurement process. I want you to take this to stakeholders. I want you to build the business case. It's like, whoa, sir. I don't know how to do this. And so I'm always taken aback by like their ability to run a process because they haven't typically been sold to. If they want something, they either just get it and they implement it. But it's that in between of like, no, I want it. I want to make the case. How do I build consensus? How do I grab a Kelly Lewis and enablement and say, hey, Kelly, can you help me build this case to get scale so I can help you with your program? How do I grab the product marketer and say, hey, if you can help me do this and we can build this together, we can both get some lift. So I'm always taken aback by those three. That it's like the cobbler's children have no shoes. It's kind of that situation for SCs. That's what the data plays out in our state of. So I love them too, and they give us a lot of information about how we think about go to market.
So when you think about the future of the SE role, obviously you've got SE agents that you're creating. What do you think what's your prediction for the next 12, 24 months? How does that role change, adapt?
Yeah. I think you and I talked about this, but I think I see it a little more clear now. I think there's just going to be this natural merge of either the more technical AE or the technical seller becoming more AE-like. So there's just this fusion of roles where, again, we live in this age of like hyper-scaled intelligence. Like there's never been access to it at this level before. I think what agents do is they just open up a world of, I no longer need to think about how I get the information. I just can kind of prompt and get it. And so I think with that kind of ubiquitous access, now everybody technically can be a technical expert. You just need to understand what to ask and how to ask it. And so I do think the roles start to merge a little bit. To Tiffany's question, we saw a little bit of that in the state of sales engineering. You see roles like sales engineers and CSMs being fused together. Mm. So imagine a world, because we live this one too, imagine a world where like my CSM who's supporting this amazing customer and doing a phenomenal job with gathering the blockers of their usage and adoption. What if they were incredibly technical? So what if instead, and this is not a slight to CSMs because I love CSMs all around the world, but like imagine if that CSM could just say, oh, let me just show you how to do this. Let me walk you through. Let me show you. Let me give you this. Let me give you some insight on the roadmap. Let me log this. They do a lot of that work, but if there's overlap with what the SE does, why not just merge the functions? And we've seen some of our customers do that. So again, I see this natural pull of whether you're a CSM, an enablement person, a PMM, an AE, an SDR, you're being pulled into the center of being more technical. And I think that's a good thing for folks who are already technical because they lived in those worlds. So that's what I see, a little bit more fusion of folks being a little more technical because the information is more ubiquitous and our ability to manage and maintain it just got a hell of a lot easier.
So that begs the question, and Salesforce is going down this path, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it. They're moving SEs into sales roles for a lot of the reasons you just described. But the first thing that jumps to my mind, again, I have like my planning, productivity, strategy hat on, is the agents that I need in that world are not necessarily SE agents. I need the junior AE agent. I need the someone who's doing the scheduling or responding to the emails. How does that fit into kind of like that vision that you see for where the world is going and the Vivun product overall?
Totally. Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in, you take a sales process and you break it down, and where I think SCs kind of turn on is like kind of the middle, right? So regardless of where you are, let's just say like stage 2 and 3 is where you're like, okay, that's in technical evaluation, and run any Salesforce report. That's where most opportunities are right now. Everything's, it's in technical. Oh, we're doing another demo. Oh, we're doing another PO. Oh, we're running the POC. Oh, we're doing a POV. Like there's just so much stuck in the messy middle. And I think like if you can put a little bit of energy there, I think it changes the whole kind of revenue and planning curve. So when I think about like the jobs to be done throughout the funnel, of course you're going to need the agents to do the account research. Of course you're going to need the agents to do the scaled email, the follow-up, the synthesis of the call recordings. But when I really think about the middle of the funnel where you can make the most impact, I think a little love, a little automation, a little AI goes a long way, particularly as every company on the planet just got more technical with their own AI strategies. So it used to be like we'd ship a couple features every, quarter or every month, or even if you're on a continuous couple features come. You can't not find a company that doesn't have a new complex AI thing that an AE is struggling to explain right now. And so like your ability to do technical differentiation, your ability to compete effectively, your ability to articulate the value of all that gobbledygook is going to separate you from your peers. So I don't understand why folks aren't putting that energy into the middle of the funnel when those evaluations happen. They're putting a lot of it into the front of the funnel. Get more meetings, automate a lot of the scheduling. Let's just see what we can. But when you show up on that, but you show up on that first date, what do they want? A demo and technical differentiation.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Jarod, you've had a very interesting career. I know when you came to HighSpot, you were very upfront. You were like, this is my stepping stone to CMO. I'm excited to be a CMO. And you made it happen. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
But throughout your career journey, I'm just curious, what do you wish younger Jarod knew?
Yeah. So this is a good question. What I'm glad I did know was I was a big proponent of 3-year planning. Someone taught me this 21 years ago. My first job out of college at Gartner pulled me aside and said, are you 3-year planning? Are you building out a 3-year plan for your finances, your family, your faith, your fitness? Like we would just walk down the list and you would put together these 3-year goals.
We're both shaking. If you're not on video right now,
I have a 3-day plan.
Jim and I are both shaking our heads like, no, we are not.
No,
so we need to listen to this.
But here's what was fascinating about 3. I've done it every year since then. So I'm on my 7th 3-year plan, right? What was good about a 3-year plan is that you look 3 years ahead because your first year you can kind of get into gear. And then you could get walloped your second year. You could get just completely, it could be a global pandemic in the second year, which happened in one of my plans. But then you can catch up in the third. And so it's having that like 36-month view that changed a lot for me. So I'm glad I had that. I'm glad Kevin Volpe pulled me aside and like taught me the value of the 3-year plan. What I wish I would have told younger Jarod is like within the 3-year plan, like you have to take time to smell the road. You have to enjoy the ride, so to speak. Because I was so maniacally focused on like, gotta do this, gotta do that. And then like I'd get upset with myself if I wasn't where I needed to be. I always caught up. I always kind of made up in that 3rd year. But what I would do is I would make sure I took the time to enjoy the ride and really spend quality time with the people I was working with. Not be so maniacally focused on the outcome, because now I look back and I'm like, man, like maybe that wasn't the best way to handle that situation. Or I have teenage daughters now, 15 and 13. And I just remember like, so you already know. I mean, like, so I'm looking back and I'm just like,
we don't know yet, but we are.
You will know soon.
Mentally scared of that time.
You will know soon. But now, the older I'm getting, I'm saying like, somebody said they don't remember dad crushed that meeting. Dad, they won that logo. Dad missed my softball game. Dad was late picking me up from dance. Dad's car is dirty because he's always going back. So that's the stuff they remember. So younger, Yeah, it's just, my car's a mess. But it's just like younger me would say, man, like just take a beat and just chill out a little bit. And I think you'll go a lot further faster. So I'm learning that as I get older, and I wish I could pull younger me aside to say, man, just chill out a little bit, because like everything you want will come to fruition because you put the work in. But the whole like maniacal focus on it isn't always necessary, because in the process you may alienate some people, you may rub some people the wrong way, you may miss out on building and fostering relationships that could be very meaningful to you. So I wish I could do it over, but I can't. But I'm still young, I'm still kind of, so I still got time. But I want to mentor other folks and just remind them the same thing. Just chill out, because you get everything you want in this life. There's enough hours in the day, but be mindful of the process and the plan. Have a plan, write it down. You have 3 years to execute it. So get after it.
I think the advice is so good. Like, we need it no matter what phase or what you subscribe to, is like I'm a little bit anti 3-year plan, I will say. Like, I think it doesn't make room to be agile and respond to like the opportunities in front of you if you feel very locked into to something that's just my own personal approach. But I think that same advice still applies. Like, people who are ambitious just get so maniacally focused on whatever they've set, even if it's a 6-month goal or there's no time limit on it. And I think that slow down component and just like pause is important.
Chill. And it might be, it's interesting because I wouldn't make the goals so smart for 3 years. So they wouldn't be like the specific measurable, they would just be like, this is the role I want to do. Right. So how that comes to fruition could be a whole bunch of different. It wasn't like I want to be a tech CMO in this region of the world with this salary. It was like, I want to achieve this goal.
Sure. Fair.
And so it could have been anything. It could have been a CMO at an ed tech company. It could have been anything. But I think like being open to like, okay, work backwards to what you need to get there.
Totally fair.
What was the key? And so like we look at HighSpot as an example. I was at a financial services company or a financial management software company. And I had always sold to IT. So I was at Gartner selling to IT as an analyst. And then I got into IT service management, and then I got into IT financial management. It was all CIO IT. CIO was the top of the food chain. And I said, well, I was product marketing in a few stints. And I said, I want to be on the other side of this. So how do I meet CMOs? How do I engage CMOs more often? When HighSpot presented itself as an opportunity, I said, well, about half of the companies we're working with at the time were going to put me in front of CMOs or VPs of product marketing, or in Rev Tech, where I'm more on the business side than I am the back office side. And so, yes, HighSpot makes sense as both a place where I can learn and grow and work with amazing people, but also put me in front of the types of people that I'm going to aspire to be one day. And so like, that was part of it. It was just like, okay, well, what do you need to do then to get here? And then what projects, what initiatives, what programs you need to go work on. So when your resume is up for review in 3 years' time to be that CMO, people don't look at it and go, what the hell you know about this stuff? So I hear you on the mix. I do agree with you on the mix.
The other thing I'll kind of say that a gift you gave me is you told me to read Your First 90 Days. What's it called?
First 90 days. Yeah.
I read that. So Jarod was on my interview loop when I went to HighSpot. And before I started, he was like, you should read this book. And I did. I skimmed it, maybe read it. Okay. Spark noted it.
Yeah.
Spark
Note was the pre-AI.
The pre-AI version of like not reading the whole thing, but getting the gist. And I will say it was super helpful. And it's something I've since recommended to so many people, especially even internal job promotions. Because it does really set you up for success and making sure you're nailing those first 90 days, because they are so important in how you build those relationships, the trust you create, and especially if you're going to be a people leader, how your team looks at you.
Yeah. It's not a shameless plug, but I had to find it. But like I keep it handy at desk reference because I think for anybody in it, you're right. I love it for internal roles. I think it's more important, and I think this book was written before COVID. But I could imagine a world where if you're remote, there's probably some subtleties to it. Mm-hmm. There's a world where I think in our first 90 days when we're going to the office, like your presence alone meant something. So you could do drive-bys. You could do not coffee badging drive-bys, but you could actually do drive-by. Oh, that's the new so-and-so, and he's here, and look at him work with. So you had this like influence that you didn't even know you had just by being in the building. Where I think now in a more remote culture, that's a little harder to do. It's a little harder to do. So your first 90 days, like imagine being 90 days, and I think I was at High Spot. When I joined High Spot, the first 90 days were all remote. This was like January 21. My first day was January 6th at High Spot, for what it's worth. So like that, their first night, I stepped foot in the building maybe twice. But at Vivun, we're 100% remote. And so now it's like, well, how do you make impact? So now do you over communicate on Slack and these other channels? Do you set all these meetings? How do you actually make? So I do think it's important to revisit the book as often as you can. And I love the idea for internal roles. And I think anyone making any change, whether it's a job one or not, should read it. I get no royalties from Mr. Watkins. I just love the book.
Well, we transitioned from a great AI conversation, agents are my favorite, into lots of career advice. So we're going to ask you one of our favorite questions, actually ask you to leave us with a question. We love for people who come on the show as much as possible to leave Kelly and myself and anyone listening with something that will help us shape our point of view, something to go back and do homework on. What is the one question we should be asking?
I'm going to borrow it from Kelly because it was one that she struck me, and it took me some time to think through, which is like, how do we mentor and grow just the next generation of amazing professionals? Whether they're sales folks, whether they're marketing folks, I would want people to challenge themselves to think, what are we doing to make sure that we're leaving this whole thing better than it was when we got here? How do we teach and grow and nurture in a world that is becoming very disconnected very quickly? How do we make time to just share our wisdom, share the mistakes we made, go back to our younger selves, not literally, but metaphorically, to go tell the 21-year-old kid getting out of college who's a sociology major, he can go do these things. How do we do that? And then what role does it play in not just, building up a better workforce and a better society? But I do think there's a world of when you give and just give and you give and you give, you start to get some of that stuff back. And so like, I would just challenge anybody to make the time to be a mentor officially or unofficially. I would challenge people to see what you could do to help somebody out. It's just looking for guidance and looking for advice. I talked to a lot of early in career people, and Kelly and I were at High Spot. I probably spent more time with the ADRs, BDRs, SDRs, and then I did my own team sometime because they were young and looking for things to do. So I would challenge people to think about that. What are you doing to advance the next generation, so to speak? And what skills, tools, and game can you give them so they can be better? Because they'll have to take care of us.
We're not that old yet. Come on. I do think though what you're saying, and I just, at least from my point clarifying, you can debate me, but I think that that's true. That sounds like it's a leadership point of view, but it's true for everyone. Like there's always a next generation. There's the ability to go back to your high school and have a career conversation, even when you're still in an ADR role. Like there is so much you have to offer at every stage. Or if you're just thinking about looking up and you need that mentor, like being very thoughtful about what you're asking, if you feel like you're in that seat where you're the next generation and you're looking for that. So I do think that a lot of people can hear that and interpret that as like, that doesn't fit for me. That's not something I need to think about. And I think that that's a mistake a lot of people will make. And so
it fits for everybody. I tell people all the time, like you have someone's dream job right now. No matter what role you're in, like someone's like, man, I wish I could be an ADR at company X, or, I wish I could be a director. So you have it. So like someone's reaching out for that wisdom. I think we're very like digitally connected, but not in real life. And so the more real life connections we could forge, the better chance we get to go help that person. And you never know what that chance opportunity, that chance meeting or that thing could become. I had the fortune of great mentors, great leaders, great people who just decided to grab and pull up. And so like, I want to pay that forward. I want to pay that back. But I would challenge anybody who's saying, okay, what's the point of view, I want to leave with? It's like, what are you doing to help somebody? Because it goes a long way, not just for the person, but selfishly, it helps you grow too.
It helps you learn your own point of view because you're sharing it. So often you don't take the time to think about why you believe things or why you do things. But when you have to explain it to someone else, you're suddenly like, oh, turns out I do have a point of view on that.
I know a thing or two.
So love this. Jarod, so good to catch up. Thank you for joining us. This was a fun conversation. I love how it went, both AI and career. I think it was great. So thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And of course, if people want to connect either with you or with Vivun, what is the best way to do that?
LinkedIn, just find me. I'm vocal. I get in trouble sometimes, but I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me, you can direct message me. I will respond. And then from there, we could take it. And then Vivun's just our website or any other channel you see us on.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
If you're enjoying the Revenue Insiders, we'd love your support. Follow us, rate, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more listeners like